If you're watching this video, you must have watched some of our earlier concept videos, or you're having trouble playing some songs at level 3. This video is here to help you give the tools you need to tackle some of these challenging songs or pieces that you're trying to play. This video is divided into chapters. It's best if you watch it the whole way through, but if you're looking for something specific, or if you know most of these concepts and just want a refresher, feel free to skip ahead to the chapter that you need. In today's lesson, we're learning about chords, chord inversions, scales, arpeggios, as well as chromatic notes and playing separate things with your hands at the same time. We're going to start with chords. Now in the previous lesson, you did learn about chords, how to play major and minor chords, and we also learned that chords don't change regardless of what order you put the notes in. Which means, for example, if I take a C major chord, C, E, and G, and I switch those notes up and I play them in a different order, E, G, and C, the name of the chord doesn't change. It's still a C major chord. It still serves the same function. The voices are just a little bit different. Which means I can play this chord in 3 different ways across the entire keyboard. This is called a chord inversion, or these are called chord inversions. These are extremely useful to add color to your music, to make it sound a lot more interesting. So when you're playing or practicing chords, practice their inversions as well. You can do this for any chord, an F major chord. I see the notes F, A, and C, and then I switch them up, A, C, and F, or C, F, and A. So I have all of these chords. All of those are an F major chord. And I can do this again with any chord, a B flat major. So when you're practicing, make sure you get those changes, those movements as smooth as you can. Because the smoother you are, the more efficient your playing is, and the better it sounds when you play. You must be wondering where all these chords come from. We have touched upon it in a previous video, but today we're going to learn about scales, the building block of all of Western music. A scale is a rule or a set of notes that you follow to play any song or any piece of music that you want to. It's almost like a raga in a Hindustani or a Carnatic music context, right? So I'm sure all of you have heard a scale before, whether or not you know what it is. I'll play one for you and see if you know what this is. That is the most common set of notes in music across the world. It's your sa re ga ma or your do re mi fa or whatever you want to call it. In Western music, we call this a major scale. Now notice how I started on C, I went up to C and I came back. I can do that on any note I want to. I can do that on A flat. And why this works is because there's a pattern of distances between notes that creates the same sound regardless of what note I start on. We're going to learn that pattern for how to play a major scale as well as a minor scale. So to play the major scale, what you need is to start on any note of your choice. I'm starting on C, that's the easiest one. And from there I follow this pattern of tones and semitones. So from C I skip a tone, which means I skip one note and go to D. From D I skip another tone and go to E. From D I move a semitone to go to F. From F I go a tone to play G. From G another tone to A. From A another tone to B. And from B a semitone to get back to C. And when I go back, I don't follow the same formula. I go back playing the same notes I played going up. So let's recap that formula. We start on any note, a tone, another tone, and then a semitone. And then 3 tones one after another, and we finish with a semitone. Let me try this on A flat, the other scale that I played. So I start on A flat, I go a tone to B flat, another tone to C, a semitone to D flat, a tone to E flat, another tone to F, another tone to G, and then a semitone to A flat, and come back playing those same notes. And I can play a major scale on any note of the keyboard with just this formula. So let's try learning a major scale. Let's try learning the D major scale with both of our hands, because it's important to play these up and down the keyboard to give you a lot of confidence and flow when you're playing. So we start on D, and let's do the same formula. D, a tone, another tone, F sharp here, a semitone to G, a tone to A, a tone to B, a tone to C sharp, and a semitone to D. And we go back playing the same notes. So see the fingers that I used: thumb, index, middle, and here I use my middle finger as a pivot to bring my thumb underneath to G. And then the rest of my fingers take up the remaining notes all the way up to D. And I come back down with the same sort of idea. Middle, pointer, thumb. Use my thumb as a pivot this time, turn to my middle finger, my pointer, and my thumb again. Let's try that with our left hand. The scale stays the same. So I start with my pinky on D, E, F sharp with my middle finger, my pointer on G. This time I pivot on the A note with my thumb. So turn with your middle finger to B, my pointer finger on C sharp, and my thumb on D. Come back the same way, C sharp with my pointer, my middle finger on B. Use this as a pivot, your thumb on A, G, F sharp, E, and D. And you can play this with your hands at the same time once you're confident with each hand separately. That's the formula for a major scale. Let's get into what a minor scale is. Now the minor scale, or the harmonic minor scale, which is what we're learning now, has its own formula. So let's try and figure out that formula now. So we start, before we do that, have we even heard a harmonic minor scale? Let me play one for you and see if you recognize this sound. This has a very different sound from a major scale. A major scale is more positive, it's happy. But a minor scale has a more sort of evil, dark, or foreboding kind of sound. Now music is of course an expression of mood and feeling. So you need to be able to express all these different moods. You can use these scales depending on what song you want to play. If you want to create a song that has sadder tones in it, try and use a minor scale and see how that works. So let's go back into learning that formula to figure out any minor scale we want to. So let's start on A here with our thumb of our right hand. You can use the same set of fingers, the ones that we used for D major. So notice how I'm using my middle as a pivot and then my thumb as a pivot on the way back. And the same thing with my left hand. Pivot and pivot. So let's see that formula now. So I start with A, I move a tone up to B, followed by a semitone to C. This is where I pivot, a tone to D, another tone to E, this time a semitone to F, and here I have a stretch which is more than a tone. It's a tone and a half, a tone plus a semitone. So it's a big jump. And then I finish off on another semitone on A. So let's do that again. So start on a note, tone, semitone, a tone distance, tone, semitone, a tone and a half, and then a semitone, and come back playing the same notes. This too can be played on any note on the keyboard. So let's start at something random. Let's say an F. So if I start on F, again, I have to follow a tone, a semitone, a tone, another tone, a semitone, a tone and a half now, and then a semitone. And I can come back playing those same notes. And that's my F minor scale. So let's learn that A minor scale, which we played so many times, with both of our hands, right? So you use those same fingers that we use for the D major scale, same thing on the left hand. So start with your pinky, ring, middle on C, your pointer on D, your thumb on E, you turn, this is where you pivot, your middle on F, your pointer on G sharp, and your thumb on A again. Come back with those same fingers. So your pointer, middle on F, this is where you pivot, your thumb on E, pointer on D, middle on C, your ring on B, and your pinky on A. And as you get more confident playing this scale, you can play with both your hands together again. That's it. So now we've learned how to play a major scale and a harmonic minor scale, and how to find any major or minor scale that we want to. And this is where we derive everything in Western music. all of our chords, all of those ideas come from this basic building block, the scale. So now you know that chords come from scales. But when we play them, sometimes they do sound a little bit boring or drab. Because if I play a melody with some chords behind it, now while that sounds nice, it could sound a lot better, a lot more colorful if I added some rhythm, some movement in the left hand instead of just these blocks. So suppose I used my ideas, my knowledge of what chords are and how I can change them up into playing the notes separately instead of all of them as one block. So suppose instead of just these three notes, what is that? D, F, and A. So that's D, A, D, and F. It's still the same chord, right? But it sounds so much better when I play this now. And now with my melody, that's going to sound so good. So I have something like. That sounds so much better now, right? So much flow, so much color in that music. So to do this, you need to practice a lot with understanding the separate notes of any chord. If I know the notes of a C major chord, I can break those notes up and play arpeggios up and down the keyboard if I want to. That's an entire C major chord. You hear this in a lot of famous songs. If you've heard Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, because that uses a B flat major chord. Right? I think I messed that part up. Let's do that again. That's just all the notes of a B flat major chord, but it sounds so good. Or a C minor chord. F. All he's doing is breaking up those notes off those chords to play these smooth flowing movements of music that sounds so beautiful. So practice, 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 especially with your left hand, because your left hand does a lot of accompaniment. And once you're confident, you can try adding these into any of the other songs you've learned that use block chords. So change that up and use arpeggios instead and see how it makes your music that much better. Sometimes songs don't have to follow that set rule of only 7 notes of a scale. Sometimes you use notes outside the scale. These are called chromatics or chromatic notes. And to play them, we have to go through all the notes of the keyboard at the same time. It's quite helpful actually when you learn to play this chromatic scale. Right? Sounds quite complicated, but we have a lot of drills to help you with this if you need them. So all you've got to do is start with your thumb on any note that you want to, any white note that you want to. So I start, say, on F. I put my middle finger on every black key that I play. Thumb again, middle, thumb. Now over here, because there's 2 white keys, I put my pointer finger on that white key. And then again we go middle, thumb, 2 white keys, so I put my index finger, middle thumb, middle thumb, and on and on. I can come back the same way. Middle thumb, middle, my pointer finger here because there's 2 white keys, middle thumb, pointer thumb, middle thumb, and on and on. I can go up and down like this. Now practicing that is useful, but it doesn't really help your music that much until you start applying these small chromatic patterns. So sometimes you might play a chord. So that change here, I followed a chromatic pattern to go into the next chord that I wanted to. Again, another chromatic pattern here. So adding these small licks, these small fills into your music adds a lot of color to your music as well. So practice these chromatic scales and start adding them into your music where and when you can. Now when we're playing level 3 songs, pieces at this level use melodies or flowy music ideas on both hands at the same time. So you might have to get used to playing something with your left hand and something entirely different with your right hand simultaneously. That's quite difficult to get down. So we have a lot of drills to help you practice this stuff, which you can check out on our channel. Now practicing this won't happen instantly. You won't be able to get it in 1 day or 3 days or even a week. It'll take repeated practice again and again, and it'll take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears as well. But once you get there, your skill will develop exponentially and you'll feel really good about your playing and others will compliment you as well. You can use any of the concepts in this video to make your music sound so much better than what it already sounds like. If this lesson helped you, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and also subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell to catch our latest content early. Thank you, and I'll see you at the next one at SIFF Young Artist, where we nurture the artist in you.